AM Rockland's News. I'm your host, Tom Osa. Thanks for joining us today. Well, we're going to have an awesome guest today. If you saw the message, who we have on the show today, I'm not going to say it's the NFL superstar, but we got the name. We got the name. So stay tuned for a few moments. Here's what's happening in Rockland real quick. So Archbishop Timothy Dolan, he announced his resignation yesterday. He actually tendered the resignation back in February, and it takes a little while for the Pope to decide yay or nay. But Cardinal Dolan has reached his mandatory retirement age of 75, and he decided, why not retire in style? So the new guy is Bishop Ronald Hicks of Joliet, Illinois, and we have some commentary from all around Rockland about this transition and a whole bunch of other stories that are happening. Let's first get into the weather. As you can see outside, it's 54 degrees and a whole lot of rain. This is not one of those days where you just imagine yourself anywhere other than the beach with 85-degree weather, hopefully somewhere in the middle of the Bahamas. But here we are in Rockland, and we're doing this together. So today, Friday, it's 54 degrees. It's going to be a low of 27, so bundle up later on tonight. Tomorrow, Saturday, it's not going to be raining, but it's still going to be cloudy with a high of 36 degrees and a low of 27. And then we get a little bit of a reprieve Sunday and Monday, mostly sunny, but still cold, 41 degrees on Sunday, low of 22 degrees. And then Monday is going to be 32 high, 21 low. Rest of the week is a mix of clouds and sun. So I'm going to go over a few of the blurbs of the stories, but I'm really excited to have our guest on. So I'm going to really kind of like run through this, and then we're going to talk with our guest. First of all, as mentioned before, Archbishop Timothy Dolan has resigned and a successor has been named. Pope Leo the XIV 14th was formally accepted the resignation of Cardinal Timothy Dolan as Archbishop of New York. Dolan submitted his resignation in February after reaching the Catholic Church's mandatory retirement age of 75 and has served as Archbishop since 2009. I've seen him at a few masses, and he was quite a very interesting and a very jovial fellow. It was a pleasure to be around him, in my opinion. The Vatican announced that Bishop Ronald Hicks of Diocese of Joliet, Illinois, has been appointed as Dolan's successor. Hicks is 58 years old and previously served in parish leadership, seminary formation, and international humanitarian work in El Salvador. He was named Bishop of Joliet in 2020. We'll have some more information on that coming up after our interview. In Stony Point, a Stony Point resident has claimed a $10 million top prize from the New York Lottery's $10 million in cash scratch-off game. Lottery officials confirmed that Beatrix Maria Bolson purchased the winning ticket at Stony's Food News in Stony Point. And now I'm racking my brain to think if I ever got into an argument with her on social media, because I definitely have to apologize very soon. Bolson chose to receive the prize as a one-time lump sum payment totaling $4,211,980 after required withholdings, which apparently is most of it. The New York Lottery reports that one top prize remains unclaimed for the game as of the latest update. So go out there and get your tickets if you're into it. Rockland County is defending the school bus safety program after an editorial criticism. The officials are responding to criticism of the school's school bus safety program following a recent editorial published by the Rockland County Business Journal. County Executive Ed Day cited program data showing a 23% year-over-year reduction in stop arm violations from 2024 to 2025, with citations dropping from 24,986 citations to 19,563. Officials also reported that 96 citations were dismissed in 2025 compared to 890 the prior year. The county also emphasized that the program is funded entirely through violations, with bus patrol covering the $7 million installation and ongoing operations. Haverstraw Town Supervisor Howard Phillips is disputing claims made in another Rockland County Business Journal article regarding redevelopment of the former Haverstraw Chair Factory site. Phillips stated that while Empire State Development has designated itself lead agency, the town of Haverstraw does not have the authority to stop the project. They can do whatever they want. But he also disputed claims that the North Rockland Central School District has agreed to the proposed pilot agreement, saying the district officials confirmed via text message no approval has been granted. And Phillips raised concern also about the scale of the proposed 450 unit development, tax impacts of the 35-year pilot agreement, and infrastructure strain on the town of Haverstraw. We'll have a few more news items for you momentarily, but first I want to welcome on to the show Tom Brady. No, not that Tom Brady. And I'm sure, Tom, you've heard this before and you got to like roll your eyes. But this is more important because Tom Brady on this show can help you, ladies and gentlemen. Strategic health and performance coach. And Tom, thank you for being on the show today. I want to learn more about you. You're a mutual friend of ours, John Sandak, and he connected us.
Yes, yes, yeah. Thank you very much for having me on, and yeah, thanks for John for hooking us up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity, and like you said, strategic health and performance is just the business title and name. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, and a holistic lifestyle coach.
Nice. All right. So you're into fitness, and that's where we coincide. Definitely aim to hit the gym at least 2, 3 times a week. I just turned 50 years old. So it's nice to, I guess, maintain some level of wellness. But I imagine as someone that has made his career in this particular area, and I imagine you have certifications and various trainings to go along with the energy that goes along with your job. I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I started off with my passion for it, being a high school, college athlete, and
Hmm.
I went through a career change. I just wanted to get into something that I love to do, which was this. So, starting off as a personal trainer, yeah, there's multiple, when you talk about the schooling and everything, since I didn't have the 4 year degree, multiple certifications. And basically, step by step, you get yourself into a basic one. And then as you branch out, to skills that you want to learn, there are many different certifications that are great in teaching you certain ways and things that you want to get into. Because again, it's a scientific field. It's exponential
Right.
as far as the things you can do, especially physically. So you basically go down the path, whether suits you the best, whatever your passion is. Give you an example, whether it's coaching an athlete or working with pregnant women. There's a lot to learn about what you can do, what you can't do, what's best, and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a wide variety field. There are many of us out there, but everybody does have their special, um, strengths that they focus on, and
Right.
that their strengths are always based on what their passion is and their background.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And over the years, I've trained with several performance coaches. One, a U.S. Marine that, let's just say, he was all in on. I mean, I remember literally like 15 years ago, we were in the Ramapo Park, and we're like running uphill with like weights on us and everything. It was really intense. So and there's this moment after the intense workouts and the strength training and the cardio and everything where you just have this moment of zen, and that makes the rest of the workout so worth it. It's like you made it to this hilltop or something. Can't explain it.
Well, that is, that's a basic life accomplishment.
Right.
Whenever we accomplish anything, we feel great about ourselves. So you went into that workout saying, "All right, here I am. Let's go. Let's work hard." And
Yes.
then when you got to what you accomplished, but I mean, think about that. Like you said, a great Zen moment. So what we want to do with what we teach as trainers and coaches is we want to get those people to that not only on a daily basis, on a weekly, monthly, and a lifestyle continuous basis from now until the end of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that your journey in this particular field started back in, just formal high schooling and such. You were on certain teams. So let's go back in time, how did you come about this field? What sports did you play? Things like that, so we could get a better picture of where you come from as you're building the rest of your career out.
So in high school and college, I played football. And obviously, football is one of those sports. It's a requirement for it. Yeah, we have a 3 month season, but the strength and conditioning is 12 months.
Hmm.
So just it's basically a lifestyle sport. As we a lot of people do know today. So when you talk about training for a sport or an activity, you have your in season training while the season's going on. Then the season ends. Okay, so then now you assess yourself and see where you're at, and you have your postseason training, and then basically when any seasonal injuries or anything like that is healed and you're ready to go, then you hit your hard off season training.
Right.
And that is what takes you, depending on whatever sport you're playing, depending on when your camp begins, takes you to usually anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks before when a camp starts. And then that brief period before your camp starts is your preseason training.
Hmm.
So there are, a lot of different ways to go about it. And it's amazing that when I went through it personally, I was that person, like most people, saying, "Oh, I don't want to do this. This is crazy. What are we
Hmm.
doing?"
Right.
I'm working hard. I wish I would have really focused in on, wow, this is what I was going to do for a living. Um,
Yeah.
so I pretty much got into it when, I was at a college reunion, and one of my college teammates, he's a trainer, him and his wife down in Florida.
Hmm.
And, he was telling me about it. I was in a job that I didn't like, and he was telling me, he goes, "Oh, I'll coach you on what certifications." Cause like I was saying before, there's so many,
Yeah.
and which ones are valuable, which ones can teach you, especially because I didn't have the 4 year degree. So he pretty much coached me, as anybody, coaches need coaches also. So he coached me through what to do, where to start, what's a good way. And he was correct in saying, hey, listen, as you get into it, you're going to find things that you like. He goes, yeah, you're an athlete, you're going to want to train athletes, that's a given.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you're going to be surprised with what catches your eye after that. And one of the things that has definitely caught my eye is I love working with the older generation. Um, Basically, I use that. It fine tunes your skills, because the human body is the human body. All our elbows bend the same way. It's just, can yours bend as far as somebody else's? So I've used the older generation to fine tune my skills to say, wow, what can you do? What can you not do? Because the human
Yeah.
body, like I said, it's all the same. We
Hmm.
all have the same responsibilities physically.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that. And as I mentioned before, I'm on like the opposite side of, now I'm 50 and I'm looking at the next 10, 20, 30 years. And before, I'd run, 100 miles an hour metaphorically, and like, duck and move and shake and everything like that. But now it's like, how can I move better? And there's physics involved, that certainly if the laws of physics break, so then do tendons, ACLs, certain parts of the body. I mean, when I was 19 years old, I had a horrible ACL injury. It still gives me shudders when I think about it. But let's just say I was playing football, and instead of like bulldogging my way through somebody that was in my way, I tried to do like a fancy zigzag move. And well, it didn't work. It just didn't work. But yeah, just being aware of one's own body when you're doing, especially the really heavy duty stuff, the heavy weights, the really, really intense. I imagine from your perspective that stretching and light movements and warm-ups kind of lead into the more strenuous training.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I preach is, you know, um, every joint has a responsibility. So what you want to do is make sure that that joint can function properly. So you want to make sure it can move in the full direction that it's supposed to be able to move. And if it can't, you want to get it to as far as it can before you worry about loading weight and
Right.
doing the things that we did, you know, we're right around the same age. So doing the things that we did when we were teenagers, holy cow, you look back, you're like, oh, you know, you're like, no wonder why I'm tight going this direction all the time.
Seriously.
So you want to make sure, yeah, I want to make sure, I don't pull a hamstring pain pickleball, the simple things in life.
Yeah.
So it becomes not only, oh, I'm working out to get stronger, more fit, but that's why I call it's a lifestyle. Let me be able to play golf on the weekend without Monday morning my back killing me. You
Yeah.
know, so the simple things you got to make sure your body's ready for it. And the best way to be ready for it is to consistently do something active and train in a way that every joint that you're using, every joint, again, getting it to its maximal responsibility, which is basically range of motion. Make sure it moves, and then you can worry about adding weight and then getting stronger in that range of motion.
From your perspective, and holistic is part of the information that you provided me as we were ramping up for this. Holistic, yeah, and I don't know the exact specifics of the term, but it's more of a focus on natural, I imagine.
Yes.
Okay.
It's basically getting down to what exactly, what is required to make the body function. Um, we have this day and age, unfortunately, there is an overload of information. Um, it's almost where the people who really try to practice a holistic way is we try to simplify things for people now, where 20, 30 years ago, we were really trying to push the education end of things. So
Hmm.
what we try to do is simplify, don't overthink anything. When it gets down to somebody's eating habits, okay, well, you don't need certain supplements if you're eating that type of food. Remember, a supplement, you're supplementing what you're not getting.
Gotcha.
So, many times I've seen people like, well, you're stacking too much of this and not getting any of this. Stop taking that supplement. Well, I heard it's good for you. It's good for you if you're not getting it through your regular diet.
Yeah. I've
So,
always been a little skittish about creatine. I never
mhm.
used it because I think when it got introduced, and I think, decades later, it's like, it's fairly safe. But when it first came out, it's like, all right, I got to wait and see because I don't know how this is going to affect my body. I know I'm going to do better strength training, but what's going to happen 10, 15 years? Like, is it going to have an adverse effect? Any thoughts on creatine?
Yeah, absolutely. Creatine is needed by the human body.
Okay.
So we'll start there again, getting back to basics. However, okay, just like food,
Hmm.
when you go to buy a creatine, what's in it? When creatine became real popular, what was the first thing they started to do? I don't know if you remember, like, again, we're the same age. When it first came out, it was such a chalky raw powder.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like you could barely intake it.
Yeah.
Well, what happened 10, 15 years later? You're like, wow, this tastes good. Well, yeah, they flavored it. Well, what they
Yeah.
flavor it with? They flavored it with things that are not good for the human body.
Yep.
So again, something was taken that, yes, it's a requirement for the human body. Yes, it can help you when taken the right way in the right amounts. However, supplement industries do need to make money, and they made it taste better. So are you going for that white chalky one, or are you going for the strawberry flavored one that you're like, oh man, I'm taking that one?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
but to answer the question again, getting back to the basics, yes, okay, it does help you. Again, too much of one thing, what happened years after, in that 10 to 15-year period after creatine became popular was kidney stones and stuff like that. Well, yeah, a little bit too much. Okay.
Mm.
Everything in moderation,
Everything in moderation.
y-
Absolutely.
you know, that becomes, the plan. And again, you might be getting more creatine in through your diet and you don't need to take as much as a supplement as you're taking. Look at what you're doing. If you have a consistent eating program, well, then look what you have and then look what you're not getting. So,
Right. Yeah. And when I hit the gym, if I'm doing a really, really, I mean, for my age, heavier workout, um, I'm going to eat more meat. I'm going to have more protein because I figure the protein is going to be used by the recovery process.
Protein does help in the muscle building, but one of the things that we want to make sure is we're in, and it seems like everything is a little bit cyclical with the way things get pushed and avoid this, do that, avoid that.
Right.
So one of the big things, because I've seen it grow in the last 15, 20 years, as far as the number of people who are active and really looking to educate themselves and being more active. One of the best requirements for the human body when you are active and you really push the boundaries, like you're talking like, oh, wow, I did a heavyweight workout. Okay, we all know you need the carbohydrates and the sugar to get through the workout. You need the protein to help rebuild muscle tissue. But one of the requirements by the human body is a healthy fat to recover from anything.
Mm-hmm.
So when you tell people, yeah, fats are good, the healthy ones, that is a full requirement to get you to that point. Because many times I've seen people, I think we're almost at the end of the fad of people like, oh yeah, I have 12 egg whites a day. Like, why you're not eating the yolk, you know? So the yolk is one of the healthiest fats the human body can intake, and that will help you as far as recovering. It'll help you from, prevent you from being sick, helps your lymphatic and immune systems. So
It
when you
has
talk about
something called lecithin in it, right?
right, yes,
Yep.
yes. So when we talk about, we get back to what we were saying before, holistic, that's the whole, you want to look at the human body and you as a whole and what you're trying to do for yourself. So don't avoid something that is natural and good for you,
Mm-hmm.
but the egg whites became real popular because the yolk is high calories. Okay,
Right.
so you eat too many of them, yeah, you can eat too much healthy food and gain weight. You know,
Yeah.
you can eat very little, unhealthy food and lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
So, but are you gonna always be sick, have a cold, get the flu when flu season comes around, or are you gonna be the healthy person who says, "Wow, I haven't had the flu in 10 years since I started eating better."
Right.
So those are the basics that we want to do. Um, when we again getting back to that holistic look.
Yeah. Are there other recommendations you have for having a fairly healthy lifestyle and one that's active? You know, I encounter many people, all shapes and sizes, and I find that there's sometimes a fear about maintaining a healthier lifestyle because of the effort levels, either in the nutrition area or in the conditioning area. So, do you have any advice for people that are maybe a little bit on the fence? Maybe they want to take a different angle over the next few years.
Absolutely. And if you talk to any of my clients, they'll tell you this. I tell them, you know, the number one thing that the human body requires is movement. Just
Right.
just keep moving. The human body is the same thing as the engine in your car. I'll tell somebody, go buy a new car today. Now don't start the engine for 2 months. Go out and see if your battery starts. It's not going to happen. Well,
Hmm.
don't ask for the same thing from your body. Don't work in an office, at a desk for 40 to 60 hours a week, and then 2 months later pick up the golf clubs and then shock that your back is hurting, or you slipped a disc, or you hurt your hips, or you pulled a hamstring. Something simple. The human body requires movement. So yes, all movement is good. Now, whether is it efficient for you or not, that's where coaches like me come in. We say, all right, well, what's your goal? Where are you at physically and what's your goal? Okay, you want to get stronger. All right, we know you're going to have a little bit more weight training than the average person. Okay, you want to get, you take the young male, you want to get bigger, So, but whatever it is, you take somebody's personal goals, but as a coach, we also assess them to see what they physically need. And that's how a program is built from somebody like me. But the main thing that I can preach enough to people, just get moving. We have
Yeah.
a lot of people work at home now. A lot of people, since the computer careers started 30 years ago, people are sitting more. Okay.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm not saying not don't make a living, but if you are sitting for that 30, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you owe it to yourself. You have to get up and move.
Right, absolutely. And in my opinion, because my first company is a web design company, the second one is a news company. Started at the beginning of COVID. Great time to start a business, by the way. Right at the beginning of pandemic. Awesome. That being said, it does require a lot of sitting down in front of the gosh darn computer over here. But I guess one of the things I've always tried to do is like take a lot of breaks. I don't have to get everything done right now. Get up every 45 minutes and walk around for a little while, come back, do more, you know, keep it moving. I love that philosophy.
Oh yeah, and that's how, because of the advent of, you know the computer, like even our kids in schools are sitting at computers now.
Right.
So you've seen in the last 20 years become very popular the standing desks in the corporate world, in
I have
schools.
one. I
Oh,
have one. Yep.
there we go. The body is meant to stand. Every time you sit, you have a possible lower back impingement. People complain of lower back pain. Well, you sit a
Hmm.
lot. Certain muscles are weak, certain ones got tight. So, we've seen the evolution of some things to help, ward off some of these issues and problems that society has.
Hmm. Yeah, very true. Into 2026, you have, and as I mentioned, for those of you that are looking to reach out to Tom, I'm going to provide some contact information in just a few. And let me just go grab that email that you sent me. You have a few things in the pipeline in 2026 coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a independent contracted, I work for myself. However, I do work with, a few gyms in the Rockland and Bergen area. They allow me to come in, bring clients in, but I'm also working with them because I do have a passion work with kids. Um, kids programs are so important this day and age because based on what we just talked about, we have, it seems like there's I call it, there's no middle class with the kids these days. You either have the kid who's an athlete that plays 2, 3, 4 sports a year, or the kid who goes home and plays video games for 3 or 4 hours a day. You
Right.
know, there's really that the kid that has no after school activity, they're not getting on their bike. You don't see them riding around town anymore. You don't see them being active and just, being kids. Um, so yeah, I've started implementing kids programs that we call it, basically a beginner and advanced. Advanced is for the kid. Yeah, you're active, you're playing sports, this and that. Okay, great. We can do things a little bit more. The beginner, obviously is, if the parents, basically the parents come to you and saying, hey, listen, I know my kid needs more. I see what's going on. So yeah, great. So we have a beginners kids program just to get the kids moving. You know, and we start as young. I start working with kids as young as 8 years old, and the kid again. Piggybacking on what I was just saying before, the human body needs movement, and when we see kids moving less, you don't know the dangers in society in 30, 40, 50, 60 years that they're going to deal with.
Uh
You know,
huh.
we think we have a lot of diseases and problems now. We
Yeah.
don't know what's coming down the pike with no movement. So I work with a couple gyms in Rockland County, one here in Clarkstown, Way More Fitness, Main Street, New City. Brian and Jeremy, the owners there. You can pop in there and ask about the kids program, or you can contact me. And I
Yeah.
also work with Blue Hill Plaza, Phoenix Fitness, with Lauren over there. Same thing. You can pop in there, ask about me, or ask about the kids program, or contact me directly. So again, it's just a passion, obviously having kids, and then looking
Of
at
course. Yeah.
what society has. I call it there's zero middle class with kids these days. Again,
Hmm.
and when you tell a parent that and they assess it for themselves, a lot of kids, a lot of parents come back to say, you're right. I said, yeah, it's dangerous. It's not dangerous today, but it's dangerous in 30, 40 years with what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. It's not the threats right now, it's the existential ones that become more prevalent as time goes on.
Yep.
Actually, curious because you mentioned about the Blue Hill Plaza. Do they still have the racquetball court there?
No.
Ah, I used to love that place.
That's part of the gym now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it was, and I think it was like 2 or 3 courts, and we had some pretty fun times over there. I'll tell you a quick story, and sometimes I lean into like statements that get a little controversial, but hopefully at this point, you know, it's not that bad. But we had a four-way game, and one of our friends, Al, and he was an older gentleman, and basically this was like around the time of like 2003 2004 was the timeline, and he's smacking the ball against the wall, and every time he hit a winning point he'd go bam, Taliban, Taliban. I'm like, dude, what the hell are you saying? He's like, it's my way of like getting the anger out. I'm like, all right, don't say, like, what the heck. So yeah, we had a lot of fun racquetball, and just amongst friends, and I gotta say that's definitely a sport that you
Oh,
gotta stretch beforehand, because you make one wrong move, because that floor is not it's not a forgiving floor.
no,
It's just
it's not.
intense, you know.
Yeah,
So
you can be young, in your late teenagers, early 20s, and play an hour or two, and you'll wake up, and even with no injuries, your ankles, knees, and hips will know that you did something different playing racquetball.
exactly, yeah,
But again, racquetball, look how that has died off through the years. And if you remember, even when you were younger, in great, great, great shape, playing, like, you were sweating, you were huffing and puffing. That was a tough sport, you
yeah,
know, and the hand-eye coordination and the quickness involved. We don't have things like that anymore, you
right,
know,
yeah, it's very
and
true.
and so again, looking at the potential problems coming down the road, like, that need to be addressed now,
Mm.
um, and getting more parents involved. There are now after school enrichment programs. A lot of schools are having them for and they're hiring coaches and trainers like myself coming in, getting the kids moving for an hour a week, which is great. There are companies that now do birthday parties with activity, which is it's great. So this is when you talk about the kids program, that's one of the reasons why this is one of my main focuses. Not only business wise but passion wise for 26
Yeah,
is really um, you know I love to work with the athletes just because that's who I am, but also the kids who really really need it. And it's amazing when you see somebody, because this day and age, the kids, their confidence levels are so low. And when you have the keyboard warrior bullies today, that again is a societal problem. All the kids need is a little confidence. When you get a kid moving, their confidence goes through the roof.
absolutely.
Think back to how we
Self-esteem.
just started this interview and you told me what you felt like when you were on top of the hill with the weight,
Yep.
working with the trainer.
Confidence builder, absolutely.
Think about that. And if we can get every kid to feel like that, we're ending so many of the mental issue problems that kids are having today just by
Yep.
getting out and moving more.
Yeah, and creating a sense of self-reliance, because when, in my opinion, when we're doing these very strenuous drills, exercises, things to keep us moving, it creates there's that instinct level that we all have when it comes down to it, and activating that, in my opinion, so that the person can be in touch with it and how it feels, and then overcoming in order to gain that sense of ownership. I truly feel that's an important attribute in society. It's where your work comes in, Tom Brady. Thomas Brady.
Yeah,
Thomas Brady.
that's all right. Tom's good.
Yeah. How does I got to ask you this. So, how did you deal with that over the last 20 years? I mean, there was it eye rolling like, just enough. Make the hurting stop.
Yeah, like anything when it was new, it was pretty fun, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was just starting to get a little old, and then I met my wife.
Okay.
So, and we had a little fun with it,
Uh-huh.
and you can even ask her, there has been situations where it has benefited us.
Uh-huh.
I'll give you a quick story about we went to a show up in the casino up in Connecticut. And
Okay.
this was 10, 12, 13 years ago. So Tom
Mohegan
Brady was still
or
playing football.
Mohegan?
What's that?
Mohegan or
Mohegan. Yes.
okay, yeah, been there.
We were going to a show, and I believe it was a Friday night. And so it was the week we're going to the show, Monday or Tuesday. And my wife's like, "Did you set up any dinner reservations beforehand?" I'm like, "Oh no." I said, and I know there's like an Italian place in there that everybody loves to go to. And I remember someone telling me about it. I said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna call that Italian place." And then I guess some people laughed at me who go up there often. They said, "You can't get in there 3 days in advance." So so I called, this is Monday or Tuesday over Friday, right?
Yeah.
And I called and asked for reservations, and they said, "Oh no, sorry, we're taking waiting list right now. There's nothing available." I said, "For two people at 5 o'clock, I can't get in there early because we're going to the later show." "Oh no, no, no. Let me just take your information." "Okay, yeah, all right. Can I have your name?" I give the manager my name. That the hesitation, I said, "Oh geez, I just called New England, right?" Dropped my name, and the guy was silent. He goes, Mr. Brady, can I give you a call right back?" I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, sure, no problem." And he proceeds to say, "Can I call you at such and such?" I said, "Oh no, 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 no. Call me at this number." He read me off his cell phone number, you know,
Uh-huh.
and he must have had it there. I guess Tom must like to go there. So I
Right.
gave him my cell phone number, hang up with the guy, and I'm laughing. And then I look what's going on. It was a Friday night show, and it made sense. Like Tom might be going there for dinner because the Patriots had a Saturday night home playoff game the next day.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you think he's getting out of practice early Friday, which he probably is the day before a game, getting an early dinner at 5 o'clock. So, I'm sitting there laughing. The guy calls me back. "Hey, no problem. Two at 5 o'clock." Okay, great. I hang up the phone with him, and I'm just hysterical laughing like this is gonna be funny when we get there. So we proceed to get there. We're in line, and we get up there, and we got the three young girls all in their, late teens, early 20s, waiting to seat everybody. And I get up there, and you could tell they're a little giddy. I guess they're waiting for Tom Brady. And I get up there, and I say, "Oh, two reservation for two. Oh, the name Tom Brady." And the girl looked at me in the eyes, and then she looked at my wife. My wife looked at her. "Yeah, I'm sorry." And it looked like I punched her in the gut. the the wind was taken out of her sails. Like I'm like, I just upset this girl and I don't even know her.
That's classic.
So yeah, so it has benefited. I have a cousin named Tom Brady who is from the county who lives up
Uh,
in the New England area, and he was on the 30 for 30 special. And
okay.
on ESPN, they did like the Tom Brady's of the New England and how they benefited from the name.
Right. Because, obviously very well known and well regarded names,
Yep.
throughout history. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Yes.
start calling up like casinos and getting reservations under the name John Lovitz. That'll get me in.
Hey, that's it.
Yeah, something like that. But
Yeah.
well,
Yep.
this has been a really enjoyable conversation. I think the best interviews that I get the chance to do is when we just talk and, just kind of like forget that the mic is there. And
Right.
that's the way it felt while I was on the air with you. How do people get in touch with you if they want to get coaching for strength, conditioning, holistic?
The best way right now is via email. I'm setting up a lot of social media platforms now.
Yeah.
Strength coach TJB at Gmail.
Strength
And
coach TJB at gmail.com.
yep. And you just put in there what you're looking for. If it's for you, if for a family member. We have the holidays upon us, so get somebody a gift of health. For the new year, since we all know January 1st what happens to the bulk gyms. If you go to one of those big gyms, there's no room to work out for about 20 to 30 days
Mhm.
before everybody gives up on their New Year's resolutions. So yeah, just give me a little bit of info what you're looking for, who it's for, and then I'll get back to you shortly, and get you rolling for 26, and make this the last time that your New Year's resolution is, to improve your health. We just want you to use it as a lifestyle going forward.
Absolutely. 'Tis the season all year long with strength and conditioning and living a healthier lifestyle. Thomas Brady, I'm gonna be contacting you again. Maybe you can provide some additional advice for our audience over the coming years, and we'll look forward to and especially somebody jumping into running their own business. I can tell you, it's definitely a worthwhile, adventurous, sometimes stressful, but definitely a rewarding journey if it's done right. Sounds like you're on the right path already, and we're thankful that you're on Rockland News this morning.
Oh, Tom, listen, thank you so much for having me on. And, it was a pleasure. And, anytime, we can come up with even certain topics as bathing suit season rolls around and all those type of good things. But again, thank you for having me on today.
Bam. And even commenting on sports or, anything.
Yes, absolutely.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for being on the show, and we look forward to having you on once again. Thomas Brady.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up with a little bit more news. So first of all, I had a meeting in Orangeburg yesterday that unfortunately got canceled because there was just some emails that went back and forth that I didn't notice. We get 200 emails a day. So sometimes it's nearly impossible to organize everything. And yesterday was one of those days. So I get down to Orangeburg and I ducked into a cafe when I found out that the appointment was canceled so that I could regroup. The name of the coffee house is the Perk House Coffee Company. They're located in Prell Plaza in Orangeburg. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you the web address because you need to visit this place. And it's perkhousecoffee.com. How do I explain this? So I'm half Colombian. As my curmudgeonly, good friend Keith likes to try to tell me, "Oh, you're a white boy. You're not Colombian." No, I'm half Colombian. I'm also half Italian. Also got a little bit of English in me. The Colombian part of me, despite my appearance, because I can't stand it when people label people based on their skin color. See, conservatives feel strongly against that as well, ladies and gentlemen. But I am half Colombian. And by the way, the Juan Valdez Colombian, not the Pablo Escobar. We don't talk about that part of no, just no. Okay. I love coffee. I am sitting here right now on my third cup of coffee in the morning. It's my energizer. I don't know why, but it is. And most importantly, I love a good cup of coffee. And I'm not talking about, and nothing against it, but like, you pick up your commercial store brand or you go into a big store chain and you grab your mocha cappuccino thing. That's all well and good. But there's a difference between that and really well created coffee. You grind the beans the right way. The right temperature for the water. You make sure that in my opinion, the oils from the coffee beans soak into the water appropriately. And there's different ways of brewing the coffee. Well, I would strongly, strongly advise you, ladies and gentlemen, to go visit the Perk House Coffee Company. All right. This was by accident. All right. So I show up. I drop my laptop on the table. I'm not in the best mood yesterday. I go up to the staff at the counter and everything, and Joseph, who's the owner of the establishment, got a standard black cup of coffee. I don't do any milk. I don't do any sugar. Maybe once in a while I'll do a little bit of milk. Just it's a little bit of a buffer or whatever for the stomach. But bottom line is I love black coffee because I get to taste the full flavor. So, I poured the cup, I made my purchase, very nice guy, and I sat down and I opened up my laptop and then I just randomly go and take a sip. And the only way that I could explain this, and I'm sorry I'm being goofy about this, but I'm really trying to make a point on how good this coffee was. Okay. Anybody ever see that show, The Family Guy, that cartoon? where Peter Griffin just like, he drinks a Red Bull and he starts going, and I feel like I just got home and I feel. That's the way it felt when I had this first sip of coffee. I'm not kidding. It was really good. And I just, can't explain it, but in that moment, it felt like the trip with the canceled appointment was totally worth it. I really like this place. Um, so I did a little research on it, and apparently, they're first of all, they just opened up. I believe earlier this year. I don't have the exact date, but this is a spinoff of another location that's just across the way from Prel Plaza, and it is the. Hold on, I'm bringing it up on the screen here. One moment, please. Kreko's Cafe. I hope I'm saying that right. Kreko's Cafe is now renamed Kreko's Pizza, which is right next to this cafe, this coffee shop, and they're related. They're actually, I believe it's family members that both own the establishments. But Joseph said they have a really good relationship back and forth. So the coffee shop is a spinoff of the pizza place. And let me tell you, you got to check out this location. You walk in, obviously the place is well decorated. I mean, it's not like, flowers all over the place. That might be a nice thing, but this had a really classic, I would even say like kind of like a contemporary, just a warm, like dark roasted coffee walls, dark walls with some beige here and there. I'm not trying to get all feng shui. I can't really describe fashion, but in other words, whoever was the designer of the place, it looks really great. So that's one. Two, there's also a really nice table and layout so that people can go there and talk for a little while. There were like 2 or 3 tables where people were just catching up. I remember these two young ladies like right in front. They were talking about this, that, and the other that's happening, and they seems like they hadn't seen each other in a few weeks or months, and it's like they're catching up, like they were just good friends. So just what I'm getting at is a really nice atmosphere at this location. Plus, I got to do my work, which was to immediately research more about this particular area. So I'm going to read off some, a little bit of a blurb. You can check out the entire review of the Perk House by going over to Rockland's News, and the story is on the homepage right now. And I do it under a pseudonym. For those of you that don't know, Caesar A is actually me. Caesar was my father, who emigrated from Colombia in the early 1970s, and it's half of me be Colombian. And by the way, Keith, yeah, I am Colombian. So please stop saying that. It's not funny anymore. Let me tell you about what I have on here. The Perk House Coffee Company is now operating in Prel Plaza in Orangeburg, adjacent to Kreko's Cafe. The cafe offers coffee beverages alongside a full kitchen, including breakfast items, bowls, baked goods, and gluten-free options. And as I mentioned before, the business is affiliated with Kreko's and is part of a mixed-use retail and office complex. My colleague Gloria Papasafaklis, she's a fantastic accountant, CPA. Her office is upstairs. That's where we were going to have the appointment with the colleague that was going to meet us over at Gloria's establishment. But we'll see if we can reschedule. I didn't even see the email when it came in on Wednesday. So oops on me, but it worked out very well. And again, the Perk House adds a lot to the local dining options in Orangeburg because they have a full kitchen. So it's not just the coffee, but you got your pastries. You also got a wide variety of options. And notably, there's also where is it? There is a menu called the Griswold Christmas menu. Where is it? Oh, it's on Rockland News. That's right. So you go over to Rockland News. I copied and pasted the menu onto the story. And let me just read off a few of the items on the menu. It's kind of funny. And they obviously like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, so you can't beat that. Griswold GF treats. Oh, these are gluten-free, by the way. French vanilla chocolate chip loaf, $20. Apple glazed loaf, $20. Vegan muffin bites, an 8 count for $20. salted caramel or banana bread crumb cake, 8x8, $28. Please allow 2 days. Order deadline is 12/21, so you got to get your order in by Sunday of this week. Plus, they got Buddy's Holiday Stack with mini pancakes, white and dark chocolate drizzle, sugar dust, and maple syrup. By the way, do you know why Snoop Dogg walks around with an umbrella? For drizzle. You also have Elf's Energy Box. That's a 96-ounce box of signature or seasonal brew with all of the fixins. There's so much more to the Perk House. I know I'm sounding like a super fan, like I just follow Tom Brady around. No, I just bring a Tom Brady onto the show. That's just how we roll. And hopefully you enjoyed that interview. But I'm telling you, check out the Perk House. I have no financial stake or interest or anything like that. I know I run a news company with advertisements and blah, 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 blah. But this is a 4.9 star restaurant review. And I haven't found exactly what the 0.1 star is that is imperfect about this place, but they're fantastic. And they have a variety of reviews on Yelp and so on, Google reviews and so on. So the Perk House Coffee Company, and again, the website, you can check out the article at rocklandnews.com, but you can go to perkhousecoffee.com in order to learn more and give them a visit. They're located at 60 Dutch Hill Road in Orangeburg, New York. And again, I say this as a half Colombian that has a really, really great appreciation for one hell of a great cup of coffee. And thank you, Joseph and staff, for being there yesterday as I was getting through the early part of my day. Pause for a sip of coffee. All right, more stories. Some interesting things have also happened on the federal level. Now, I'm going to say this before I start this off. I try to steer as far away from federal and state stuff unless it absolutely affects Rockland County. And here is where it is going to affect Rockland County. Cannabis. Now, I don't know about this whole cannabis thing, ladies and gentlemen, but something happened yesterday that essentially is going to have an effect not just on law enforcement, but also the perception of the item in question. So the president has signed an executive order directing the U.S. Attorney General to reclassify cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug under federal law. So what this does, ladies and gentlemen, it allows expanded research into cannabis and its various medical applications. Now, if we go back in time and we look at like the 1950s and the 1960s, and that stupid movie Reefer Madness and everything, things can be hyped up or knocked down. And when the general public takes hold of it, they're going to have a certain perception of it. So, and these things change over time. We're going to take an objective point of view on this because there's good and bad to everything. And like our guest Tom Brady said before, everything in moderation. But what this does from the perspective of science and governing of that science, let me explain to you the difference between Schedule 1 and Schedule 3. Schedule 3 is heroin. Schedule 1, I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. Schedule 1 is heroin. Let me just mark that because I'm going to take that out of the actual episode when we launch it on the podcast. Schedule 1 drugs include heroin. In other words, it's highly addictive, where if you don't have some sort of outside help, you're just going to want more and more and more of it. Schedule 3 drugs have a much less addictive profile to it. So theoretically, if you try it or if you use it recreationally, you're not going to wake up the next day jonesing for it on the bathroom floor, shaking, saying like, I need this thing in order to live. All right. So that's the difference between Schedule 1 and Schedule 3. Cannabis has been classified as Schedule 3 for literally I mean, 40, 50 years at this point. So, I'm sorry. Damn it. I'm getting them mixed up. Marking that part of the clip too. Cannabis has been, sorry guys, I got to get this right. Cannabis has been classified as Schedule 1 for the past 40, 50, 60 years under federal law. The reclassification of cannabis as a Schedule 3 drug allows the ability for science and through pharmaceutical companies, as well as various individuals in, for instance, universities that are employed in order to study these effects. It gives science the ability to really break it apart molecule by molecule, because from my readings of it, it really is a complex, and of course it's a drug. Nobody denies that, but it has so many different elements to it that can be extracted without producing the negative short and long-term side effects. That's really the important component of this change in law. So Schedule 3 will allow US government resources to potentially be reused in order to look into that particular component of cannabis. And maybe it's more beneficial than people have characterized it as. Maybe it's less beneficial. We don't know. However, I will say that from our interviews and our connections with our various advertisers and local retailers, one of them, Gregory Pereira of 202 Cannabis in Garnerville, issued a statement following the federal executive order change, reclassifying cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And Pereira said that the change allows for expanded medical research, as I mentioned, same, and alters the tax treatment under Federal Code 280E, which previously limited business deductions for cannabis retailers. And he stated that the change may improve operational sustainability for state licensed dispensaries. Cannabis does remain illegal at the federal level, but the reclassification places it in the same category as certain prescription medications. So now, if you think about that, and by the way, 202 Cannabis is located in Garnerville, New York, right on Route 202. We've been in there. I find that the establishment focuses very much on safety, treating cannabis as, if you're purchasing it for recreation, to be careful with it and treat it as any other thing that you put into your body. You do everything in moderation. That seems to be the theme of what we're talking about today. So moderation is key in terms of the way 202 Cannabis advises. And there's a lot of safety articles that are literally right on the counter as you're going and learning more. And they provide education. They got really knowledgeable people there. But so Gregory, and he and I talk from time to time. And it seems like this is going to help as far as like the retailers to be able to get some tax relief as they're building out their businesses, and it's a young industry in New York, and also be able to expand the way that they offer the various offerings in the establishment, and again, do it in a safe and reliable way. There's ways of doing things. He and I talked regularly, as I mentioned. We also talked about something called terpenes. Now, you'll learn more about this over the course of the next few months because we've already done a few articles on this. But cannabis typically has two different types of profiles. One is sativa, which is kind of like an energizer, like, you take too much of it, you get like, from what I heard. Indica is more the other, like, you're just hanging out, it's just relaxing. Everything's cool. They might hang out and watch a movie or a video game. It's a body relaxer sort of thing. That's the way indica is. But really important, within both of those compounds are over 400 different what we call terpenes. And those terpenes have different effects. So, for instance, one of the ones that I've studied is called linalool, all right? And it's supposed to create a little bit of a positive vibe and a bit of focus as well. Yes, certain terpenes allow you to focus better while you're doing your daily activities. Certain terpenes don't. I will say that as well. So there's over 400 of them. And the thing that I'm excited about, just from observing it from an objective person that could have never possibly ever taken the substance, but I'm really, really excited about learning to finding out how science and universities and really smart people break down the substance and look at it from both a positive and negative standpoint and see what really is going to be beneficial for you, the consumer. And that's what it's all about. So, a lot of interesting movement happening in that particular arena. I will note that many of our local elected officials have varying reactions to it. For instance, Congressman Mike Lawler did mention that this is not a good move from his perspective. He considers marijuana to be an addictive drug, one that is a gateway drug, and I'm quoting him directly, is a gateway drug to other drugs. And he cited some statistics that show that people that end up on hard drugs start with cannabis. So there is that to be considerate of, and make sure that as we go forward, whatever happens, that it's done in a responsible manner. And various individuals, as you remember, because now we have about 5 different cannabis dispensaries around in Rockland, including 202 Cannabis, located in Garnerville, New York, on Route 202. Um, Various town officials have chosen whether to opt in or opt out of the program that is set up by New York State, which was kind of like a clunky rollout, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Stony Point, for instance, opted out. That doesn't preclude them from perhaps coming back into the program later. But as town supervisor Jim Monahan stated, and I'm quoting, he said, "Smoke them if you got them, but you just can't buy it here." And the reason for that is very simple, according to Monahan. He said that once you opt in, you can't opt out. You can always elect to opt in later on, but once you opt in, you cannot opt out. And that's an important point. So, and various towns and such have opted in, and that's cool. So that's basically, and also, for instance, we have illegal dispensaries that have opened and they have had to be cracked down upon. For instance, in the village of Nyack, there was several announcements this year about certain establishments opening and selling illegal marijuana, cannabis, and those got shut down. So only the licensed, authorized cannabis providers and retailers and dispensaries in Rockland County are applicable and can remain open. So yeah, it's really interesting how that's going to play out. We're interested in following that as an ongoing story. A lot has happened from Archbishop Timothy Dolan's resignation. It's really a retirement, so of course, and we wish him well. I really noted that he was a really jovial fellow. Really, whenever I attend church sometimes, and I remember at Immaculate Conception Church, we were waiting for the mass to start, which he presided over, and he really gave a really just heartwarming sermon, and pretty funny too. He's a funny guy. Not like I'm here to amuse you funny, but like just he's got a natural, genuine sense of humor. He certainly didn't receive a speedboat on the way out. Nobody does, but he definitely got a lot of really good vibes and accolades from all over Rockland County. I'm going to read off what George Homan, the town supervisor from the town of Clarkstown, said. Um, he has some really great photos of visits that the cardinal made to the town and the county that he posted. And Cardinal Dolan has been an impeccable leader of the Archdiocese of New York, serving for over 16 years as the Archbishop of New York. That's one of the longest tenures of any of our bishops in the over 200-year history of the diocese, having been trained himself, George, in the seminary. I'm going to mark that in the seminary as uh, having been trained himself in the seminary with a background in church history, as does Cardinal Dolan. And Holman continued to say he very much appreciates his accomplishments from a historical perspective. Certainly his tenure rivals that of Cardinal Spellman and Cardinal O'Connor, and certainly Cardinal Hayes. You know, he will go down in history as one of the strongest and most successful archbishops of New York, navigating the church at a really difficult time. So those were some words from George Holman, town of Clarkstown supervisor. So I think that's a good place to end. We had a lot of things happening today. Stony Point, we got a new lottery winner. Congratulations, Beatrix. You're going to see a lot of people coming at you. It's like, oh, you're so amazing on social media. They're going to be like giving all the love. The only thing I'm going to say to you, Ms. Bolson, I think you know this instinctively, make sure you talk with the financial advisor, because he or she or they will help you to protect your assets the right way. So stay tuned for more from Rockland's News. We're going to end with our sponsors. Thank you again for joining us today, and let's finish up with the closeout music on Rockland News. And I'm just going to read off all of our awesome sponsors, and thank you very much for all of you that have been a part of this journey. We are moving and shaking in 2026, so we are just getting warmed up. Competitors, look out. We are ready to go. You don't even know what's coming at you. But thank you to our sponsors, because you're the ones that make it all happen. Yabu Fence Company, Dana Pest Control, Easy Temp in Hackensack, New Jersey, Kobe Sushi with their Jazz Music Lounge, music on Wednesdays and Saturday nights, Susan Bover from Coldwell Banker Realty, Warren Molino Muller from Howard Hanna Rand Realty, Whole Shot Bagels in Haverstraw, New York, 99 Signs. Get your signs from 99signs.com. FC Perfection in Congress, New York, Clean Space Maintenance Management Company. My name is Tom Osa. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care for now, and happy holidays. Merry